welcome to Ask an AE section. I think this is the first one in 2025. So well done joining us tonight. Tonight for me, I'm in Asia. My name is Chak and I'm an associate editor of AMR and also a professor of management at the City University of Hong Kong, and I'm serving as your host today. Thank you once again for joining us. The purpose of Ask an AE is to introduce an AMR AE regularly present a topic related to publishing in AMR. Myself, for example, I've spoken about why papers are rejected. Other AEs have talked about other topics like what papers are more likely to be given a chance for an R&R, how to navigate, the review process, et cetera, and we have a lot more Ask an AE planned. Please check out the AMR calendar, and we hope that you'll be able to join us all. Today, we are very fortunate to have Paul Tracey and Kristie Rogers, two of the wonderful AEs here with us, to share with us the special topic forum, which is coming up on marginalized workers and marginalized populations in organizations. So I think they're going to start with a very brief introduction of the special topic forum, just a brief intro, and then what AMR is looking for, I think about 10 to 15 minutes, and then for you guys to ask any questions that you may have. So we will have time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. This part of the presentation will be recorded, but for the Q&A, we will stop the recording. And then one last thing before I pass it to Paul and Kristie, the chat is just for me and Chris Byron. Chris is also here, our editor at AMR. So you should, they will only talk to me, so to speak, and ignore whatever is going on in the chat. But, again, as you have any questions, feel free to just post it in the chat, and I'll try to organize them and respond to every one of those. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic to Kristie and Paul.
Oh, that's great. Thank you very much, Chak. Fantastic to have this opportunity to speak to everyone. My name is Paul Tracey. I'm an associate editor at AMR. I'm also a professor of innovation at the Judge Business School at Cambridge. And a lot of the work I do is on social innovation broadly defined, but a lot of it links to the topic of the special topic forum around marginalization in organizations. So I'm really excited to be having this chance to speak with you. Now, I'm starting off, we've got a short presentation, and I'm going to start off, but before I do that, I'm just going to hand over to Kristie to introduce herself, and then I will put my slides up, or our slides up.
Thank you, Paul. Hi, I'm Kristie Rogers. I'm also an associate editor on this team at AMR. I'm a professor at Marquette University, and marginalized workers and populations have been something I've focused on in terms of samples and empirical work, and marginalization in the identity space and other micro topics have been of interest to me throughout my career. So I'm really excited to be co-leading this STF. Paul and I are very excited about where this can go.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to share my slides. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that well enough. Okay, so I'm going to start off just by introducing the team that we've got on this special issue, because this really, the call for papers, which Chris has posted, really was a collective effort. We developed this together, and we've got a great team of people who are all really interested and passionate about the focus of the special topic forum. So let me just briefly introduce them. We've got John Amos from the University of Edinburgh. He was actually an AMR AE on the previous team, and he's done some really interesting work on inequality, including a special topic forum, including from the editor's piece on inequality in organizations, which is really interesting. Then we've got my colleague Raja Chattopadhyay. He's at the University of Cambridge working with me, and he works on cognition and affect in the context of diverse teams. Then we've got Aparna Joshi at the University of Michigan, who does really interesting work at how social differences translate into inequality, with particular focus on gender. We've got Jamie Ladge from Boston College, whose work is at the intersection of family, gender, and identity. Then we've got Kristie. You know Kristie because she's here on this session with myself. We've got Lex Smith at Oklahoma State University, and Lex's work is about respect and disrespect in the context of different work situations. We've got Madeleine Toubiana at the University of Ottawa. Madeleine's an institutional theorist, and she does really interesting work on stigma, emotion, and embodiment, a lot of which links to marginalized populations in and around organizations. And then finally, we've got me, who you know. So what we thought we'd do is, first of all, start off by giving you a little bit of background about the motivation. So why are we actually doing this? With Kristie and I, we were talking before about whether we should actually put a definition of how we understand marginalization on the slide, but we decided not to do that because we don't want to be overly constraining, because the term can be understood in different ways. But I think we just want to say in very broad terms, we've defined marginalization very broadly as the process by which individuals or groups in and around organizations are pushed to the periphery through organizational structures, practices, or discourses. So that's a very broad way of understanding what marginalization is. And within that, we hope that people will be able to sort of work within a range of different traditions and theories and perspectives. But when we were thinking about this special topic forum, it struck us that, there's a lot of work now in organizational research on inequality, inclusion, exclusion, diversity, and so on. But a lot of it still reflects these sort of fairly traditional assumptions about, what the ideal worker looks like and where the ideal worker works. So particular assumptions around gender, around race, around context. And we felt that, despite the work that's been done, there's a really interesting opportunity for a kind of richer theorizing that better captures the experience of people at the margins of organizations, marginalized workers, and really to try and capture some of their experiences and perspectives, which we think are missing from our conversations in our journals. And so what we wanted to do was to develop a call for papers that sort of encouraged a set of theoretical contributions that challenges and extends existing ways of theorizing to incorporate the perspectives of these of a broader range of people and the context in which they work. It also seemed to us that a lot of the work, particularly on inequality and social exclusion and so on, it often focuses on a particular type of marginalization or a particular type of inequality. And one of the interesting things that we think in the work we've done on marginalization, that it rarely occurs along a single axis. So it's produced and reproduced in multiple ways across multiple bases of marginalization and inequality. And we think that organization theory often falls short of capturing this. And a kind of final, but I think really important part of our thinking was that marginalized actors and organizations are often considered in pretty passive terms. They're not given a lot of agency, but we know that, they are not, that they have the capacity to organize for change and to make social change. And we felt that that aspect of was not captured very well in the journal, in the theoretical conversations that we have at the moment. Okay. So what we've got in the call, as you'll see this, we collectively put together 9 different topic areas, different subjects that, to guide authors to help structure the submissions. But before, and Kristie will talk in more detail about those in a moment. But before we do that, we just thought it might be helpful to think more broadly, if we abstract out from the topics, to think like, what do we really want these papers to do? And I think what we're trying to encourage authors to think about is how they can engage with some foundational questions in relation to marginalization. So here are four key ones. So first of all, how do our core theories and theoretical assumptions impact or constrain our understanding of marginalized workers in the modern world of work? So if we buy the argument that organization theory is focused on particular understandings of what an idealized worker looks like and the sort of places in which they work, if we were to relax those assumptions and think in a different way, how will our theories, our core constructs, our understandings of organizations need to change? Second of all, how do organizations contribute to or challenge processes of marginalization? In other words, what are the processes and practices, informal, formal, through which marginalization is produced, reproduced, altered? Thirdly, how do marginalized actors navigate, resist, or transform oppressive organizational structures? I mean, this links to the point that I made before that people at the margins of organizations, they're not passive, they have agency. And in mainline organizational research, we don't know very much about how they organize for social change, and we think that's really important. And then finally, what insights can be gained by examining forms of marginalization at the intersection of different types of inequality, race, gender, class, disability, and so on. Because it seems to us that that's where a lot of the really interesting theorization might take place. And that's often really difficult to study empirically. And so we think that in the context of an AMR special topic forum, that could be really interesting. Now, obviously, any one paper is not going to cover all these four issues, but these are the sort of core themes that we're hoping might be captured. So that is the last slide that I've got. I'm going to hand over to Kristie now, who's going to take us through the next slides.
Thank you, Paul. All right, so I want to draw our attention to the broader mission of AMR and what theory papers look like that are for submissions that move forward, and what might that mean specifically in the context of this STF. So our mission in general, as many of you know, I can see from the list, we have some who are experienced authors at AMR, some who may be brand new to it. But publishing new theoretical insights, things that really advance our understanding of management and organizations, is our mission. I would add for the STF, we aim to and are really optimistic about advancing our understanding of marginalization, both for workers themselves, for marginalized populations as a whole, and understanding that at multiple levels. AMR publishes novel, insightful, and carefully crafted theory papers. We'd love to challenge conventional wisdom and see this as a great opportunity to do so, especially where organization meets society, which feels especially relevant for this STF. All right, so what might some topics look like? And please know that there are many more, but as we sat down with this team of guest editors and passed this call around to envision what this might be, here were some of the topics or leads that we saw as especially exciting. So the first is evolution of existing theories. Paul started off by saying that this is an opportunity to carefully look at the assumptions underlying our foundational theories about organizations, and like who do we assume are the actors in those theories? How well have some of those aged in terms of explaining the modern world of work and where we are with organizations now? And so we see this as an opportunity for evolution of some of those existing theories, and maybe in ways that focus on or incorporate not so traditional work settings. How can we, understand the experience of work for those who are not doing 9-to-5 knowledge work or things that we have typically thought of as traditional? At a more macro level, we see social movements, activism, the role of institutions, and the broader societal context being important here. And the beauty of theorizing is this gives us an opportunity to cross levels and to do things that you couldn't do in a single study. So how can we incorporate some of that and see these angles as well? We see social evaluations like stigma, legitimacy, reputation. This is a great opportunity to move work in those spaces forward. And also to explore dimensions of difference or diversity that haven't received a whole lot of attention to date in our literature. So we see potentially more on socioeconomic diversity, neurodiversity, and again, those non-traditional work roles or work environments. We see the complexities of marginalization as being exciting here, and that could include intersectionality, that could include crossing levels or incorporating multiple levels, as I mentioned. And in terms of leadership, we see there being unique challenges and considerations in leading those who are marginalized and acknowledging that, and also taking on leadership roles for those who may see themselves as marginalized in some way. Finally, when we think about the marginalized workers themselves, what is the emotional experience that accompanies that? What are the emotional experiences for others involved? And what do and don't we know about the embodiment of these experiences? So how does this impact the person in a physical way, in an emotional way? And these could be really exciting spaces to move theory forward as well. All right, so what do we want our authors to do? In general at AMR and certainly in this STF, we want our authors to craft theory that is groundbreaking, that feels novel. And I want to dig into what exactly that means. What is novelty? And to push the boundaries in our field, specifically in this marginalization space. We know that we need new voices to do this, and we are receptive to those voices. We are thrilled with the guest AE team that we've put together, who study this from a variety of angles, have great experience in building theory, and also have excellent experiences as editors either at AMR or at other journals in ways that they are bringing a set of skills to this team that we have no doubt can help us craft some really rich theorizing. So we want to see some, big, bold ideas coming from many different places, and ideally to change or shift the conversations that we've been having in ways that sparks new, exciting research in this space moving forward. All right, so how might this be done? I love thinking through these 4 different forms that theory papers often take at AMR. And so one is developing new theory, which we often think of as the default. Am I theorizing about something that has not been theorized before? The next, and this speaks to those topics that I raised, significantly challenging or enhancing existing theory. This is an opportunity to dig in and examine the assumptions and the theories that we've been building upon. How can we revisit those and do so in a way that might better theorize where we are with the organizational experience now? Authors can also synthesize recent advances and put those into fresh new theorizing. And lastly, craft ways to improve the process of theory development. And I could see this taking shape in what does our theory development look like? What are the specific challenges or opportunities in the topic area for this STF? And so I see this as another potential path forward. All right, so which papers do tend to receive an R&R at AMR? And when we've talked about this as a team and in our individual experiences, we agree that we're looking for some nugget of novelty, that it doesn't necessarily have to be this perfectly polished gem in the first round. And being receptive to your paper and your contribution evolving through the review process is really important. But what does this nugget look like? For me, I see novelty having 2 pieces. One of those is newness. Is this something we really haven't been able to grasp or understand before? But the other is framing that and helping us see and helping the reviewers see, why is it important that we know this? What conversation are you joining specifically? And how can you change that conversation in ways that help us see something we didn't see before, maybe understand something differently, or even see that we've been thinking about things in ways that don't accurately reflect the experience of workers and organizations. What are we getting wrong, and how can we get it right? All right, and those papers that are accepted, what do they typically offer? Ultimately, we want to see these papers challenge conventional wisdom, providing new theoretical insights, and answering these questions that I mentioned some of them in the last slide about framing. Without this work, what can't we understand? So can you give us a compelling answer to that, or perhaps even what are we getting wrong? All right, and for process of this STF, which we're happy to answer more questions about, but Paul and I will be leading the guest AE team. We will have another session like this, an Ask AE session, where those editors will be here with us as well. We're hoping to have some kind of breakout groups with them so that authors can ask questions and get some individual opportunities or small group opportunities to interact with the team. The submissions for this, the window that submissions will be taken is January 1st to January 31st of 2026. And the review process, we expect on February 1st that Paul and I will really dig into these submissions. We will decide on the papers that will go out for review, asking our guest AEs for help with that if we need help making those decisions. But getting those papers to guest AEs as quickly as possible to distribute them to reviewers and move this process forward. So we see the review process being early 26 to ideally approximately, I'd say mid to later in 2027.